Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to absolutely demystify wealth. We usually think about money, well, purely in terms of math and spreadsheets, right? But the truth is actually entirely different. We are going to break down the fascinating psychological and behavioral divide between the rich mindset and the poor mindset. Okay, let's dive right into this. Let's start with a question that might actually ruffle some feathers and shatter a few preconceptions right out of the gate. If you earn a massive salary, are you automatically wealthy? Society definitely tells us yes, but decades of behavioral economic data tell us a completely different story.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The illusion of wealth. 2. Rich versus poor mindsets. 3. Assets, liabilities, and debt. 4. The toll of scarcity. And 5. Habits for building wealth. Let's get moving.
All right, Section 1, the illusion of wealth, shattering the image.
Thomas Stanley spent 20 years researching millionaires, and he revealed this incredible concept: big hat, no cattle. He found that the neighbor with the brand new Porsche is actually often completely broke, literally drowning in lease payments just to signal status. Meanwhile, the actual millionaire next door, they're quietly driving a used Ford F-150 and wearing an off-the-rack suit. Their wealth is invisible because it's invested, not just parked in the driveway.
So how can you measure if you're actually on track? Well, Stanley and Danko created this super simple formula. Take your age, multiply it by your gross income, and then divide that by 10. That number, that's your expected net worth. Go ahead and do that quick mental math. Are you above it or below it?
Depending on your answer to that formula, you're going to fall into one of two camps: a PA or a UAW. A plumber earning an average salary who just diligently saves 20% can easily become a prodigious accumulator of wealth over time. Conversely, a high-earning doctor who inflates their lifestyle to match every single promotion, spending it all on luxury goods, falls squarely into the under-accumulator of wealth category. See, it's not about the salary, it is entirely about the habits.
Moving right along to Section 2, Rich versus Poor Mindsets, the Psychological Divide.
Based on psychologist Carol Dweck's landmark research, we see this massive divergence in mindset. It's like a giant puzzle. The wealthy tend to completely embrace a growth mindset. They view their abilities as malleable, they invest heavily in self-education, and they actually learn from financial failures. On the flip side, the poor and middle class often operate from a fixed mindset, feeling locked into their current circumstances. They view a failed venture as permanent proof of inability rather than, just a stepping stone.
And these invisible mindsets manifest in very concrete, everyday behaviors. Wealthy individuals practice frugal living and optimize their money proactively. They take calculated risks because they operate from this deep belief in abundance. The middle-class mindset, which is often driven by fear, clings to a security-first mentality and falls victim to lifestyle inflation, literally only reacting to financial problems when the alarm bells are already ringing.
Okay, Section 3. Assets, liabilities, and debt. The mechanics.
Echoing the core philosophy of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, when the wealthy spend, they always ask, will this help me build wealth? They buy appreciating assets that actually put money into their pockets. The middle-class mindset, though, they ask, can I afford the monthly payment? And they buy depreciating liabilities, things like new cars or electronics, that constantly pull money right back out of their pockets.
And man, this translates directly into how they view debt. Debt is really just a financial force multiplier of your judgment. The wealthy utilize good debt to finance income-generating assets. The poor and middle class, unfortunately, get trapped in bad debt, using credit cards and personal loans to fund instant gratification and consumption with money they simply do not have.
Let's actually look at the math here, because it's super cool to see good debt in action. A wealthy mindset abides by the rule to never use your own money. Say you borrow $1 million at 8% to buy and refurbish an apartment. The rent brings in 14 grand a month. Your interest and maintenance cost you 11 grand a month. Boom. You've generated a positive net free cash flow of $3,000 a month entirely using the bank's money. That is the rich mindset leveraging debt to build an asset column.
Right, moving to Section 4, the toll of scarcity, the empathy of economics.
This brings us to some genuinely mind-blowing research out of Princeton University by Eldar Shafir. He proved that poverty isn't just a shortage of financial resources, it's a critical shortage of cognitive bandwidth. When you are constantly preoccupied with survival and pressing budgetary concerns, you literally have fewer mental resources left to devote to anything else.
Shafir uses this brilliant suitcase metaphor to explain budgeting. The wealthy have this massive suitcase. They can pack items casually. There's plenty of slack. If they make a mistake, they just pay a small fee out of savings. But the poor? They have a tiny suitcase. It has to be packed intently. Every single item requires an agonizing trade-off. They have absolutely no room for error, and that daily juggling act is just mentally exhausting.
But get this. Here is the most shocking data point from his research. The constant preoccupation with scarcity imposes a cognitive load so heavy it actually drops a person's fluid intelligence by up to 14 IQ points. To put that into perspective, that is a steeper cognitive decline than losing a full night of sleep. It moves a person from average intelligence down to the borderline deficient category purely because their mind is completely consumed by financial panic.
And honestly, this cognitive overload explains behaviors that outsiders might just write off as foolish. I mean, why would someone take out a payday loan with a 7,000% interest rate? It's not because they're inherently bad at math. It's because of contextual myopia. When the fire of having your electricity shut off is raging right now, you grab whatever bucket of water is in front of you, regardless of what it's going to cost you next month. It is pure survival mode, which unfortunately forces a poor mindset.
Finally, Section 5, Habits for Building Wealth, Escaping the Cycle.
Look, building wealth is rarely this glamorous thing you see on social media. In fact, it's a marathon of highly disciplined, almost boring habits. You gotta pay yourself first, saving 15 to 20% automatically before you even see the money. You must consistently buy assets, completely reject the social pressure of lifestyle inflation, and continuously educate yourself.
Which brings us to the ultimate secret weapon of the rich mindset. As Albert Einstein famously said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. The poor end up paying it in high-interest consumer debt. But the wealthy, they earn it by letting their discipline compound their assets over decades. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to evaluate your own financial life. Look really closely at where your money goes every single month. Are your habits building an asset column that will eventually set you free? Or are you just buying depreciating liabilities, effectively packing yourself into a smaller and smaller suitcase? The mindset you choose today is absolutely going to dictate your reality tomorrow. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.